Hello guys, welcome back. Today we have very big news on Kaspa coin and the Rust update that is coming in very soon. So Michael Sutton, who is one of the developers of Kaspa coin if you don't know, has revealed Kaspa's 10 blocks per second hard fork roadmap and is being named the Crescendo hard fork. Don't really know why they named it this, but they have a whole Medium article here unveiling the Crescendo hard fork roadmap for 10 blocks per second and more. So it starts off saying the successful deployment of Rusty Kaspa node software stable release. So if we look here, this kind of what testnet 11 looks like. If it was on mainnet, you'd see kind of this amount of blocks going on the network at one time. There is the actual graph inspector, which we can go look at, but that's moving at a slower pace than what we're seeing here. So this is what the Kaspa mainnet will look like at 10 blocks per second on Rusty Kaspa. And then it goes on to say broad adoption by Kaspa's P2P network and mining community. So 97% of Kaspa blocks are mined via the Rusty Kaspa nodes. So you can see this here, mined by Go nodes and mined by Rusty nodes. So this is the swap over where they were asking people to basically update. And as you can see here, it's leveled out. So around 97 are on Rust nodes, around 3% is on these Go nodes. So I don't know if they have identifiability on them of where they are and who's actually operating these, but we would actually need them all to go over to Rust to bring it onto mainnet, I believe. So in the post, he'll outline the tentative roadmap for the upcoming hard fork, thereby named the Crescendo hard fork, what will it likely include, and the process of deploying it. So overview at a high level, here's how we envision the steps needed to implement such an acceleration on Kaspa's main network. Launch and stabilize, so launch a testnet at the desired block rate, probably 10 blocks per second. I know they had talks about 32, but I think we're going to start slow and then ramp it up as it goes along. Then identify bottlenecks. Once that's done, they're going to do that, repeat it above until the minimal specs are affordable enough for low enough to satisfy the decentralization required for the mainnet. And then enhance user experience once a performance requirements are settled. Perfect the node software to the level of user experience required by mainnet operators. That is some minor problems that can be neglected in a testnet settings that need to be addressed when it goes over to mainnet. And then implement any additional hard fork features and deploy them on testnet 11 so we can obviously test it. The target timeline is 4 to 5 months from now, and that'll place us pretty much in December going into January, so 2025. We can expect it to move over past that, I guess. It also says some features might be excluded to fit the timeline. I don't really know what those features would be, but the main one obviously that we're looking for is that blocks per second being updated. And then hard fork version, implement the hard fork transition in version, deploy transition testnet, mainnet development with hard fork transition activated 1 to 2 months later. So that'll put us in February to March. So that's when we should have the whole thing running on Rust, is around March time. Obviously, there's some time constraints that need to be met, and you'd like them to take their time, obviously, to get this right, because you can only do a hard fork once without messing it up. If you do mess these hard forks up, then, it puts less faith in the coin, and that might cause the price of the coin to go down. So currently, the Rusty Kaspa developers are busy with preparing a mainnet version that is focused on introducing many mempool features, whose necessity was detailed by the KRC beta launch. So we saw that, it didn't really go as planned. I know that they're going to have a revised launch soon, but currently the last time that they tried it for KRC 20, it didn't really go to plan. Obviously the fees on the network did spike up, and a lot of miners took advantage of that just for the brief period that the fees were up, and the block rewards were outperforming the emission schedule, and that's kind of what we want to see later down the line when 100% of the supply is mined, or close to 100%. Where the fees can also sustain miners. We saw it with Bitcoin ordinals a little bit, where those fees on the network were bringing up the block rewards. And it's always good to have that extra on top of the block rewards, because as obviously time goes on, the block rewards are going to get lower. So after that version is released, we'll focus on shift to creating a performance-oriented version meant to stabilize testnet 11 nodes. This version will be used to align testnet 11 behind a version which hopefully solves all current processing bottlenecks and provides a smooth operation for the network as a whole. The main bulk of the work would be the following PRs computing Ghost DAG on a higher level. So I don't know when this DAG night is coming in. I'm assuming after Rust. So they're just going to do it for Ghost DAG now, and then that'll be a thing in the future. And then parallel input validation, upgrading the KIP9 formula on testnet 11 in its final form, because testnet 11 was launched with a premature version of KIP9. And then implementation of KIP10, compounding addresses allowing microtransactions with KIP9. Lastly, an improved logic for transaction sampling while building block templates. So it says after all these features are merged, testnet 11 will be rolled out in its new version under maximum load for a couple of weeks. Obviously that's testing, understand the system requirements. If the minimal system requirements are deemed too high, some parameters such as difficulty adjustment, window size, and sample rates, finality depth, etc. will have to be adjusted. So I think that's actually the system requirements to run the node. Normally what happens is you don't want it to be too system heavy, because that means that people will start having to buy a lot of hardware to actually upkeep these nodes. So you want it to be able to run on a bunch of machines basically. And those with not the top specs of hardware, obviously they would be better. But for further decentralization, you want your nodes to be able to run on basic hardware machines. You know, a couple of gigabytes of RAM, not a really expensive CPU, stuff like that. And it says once all above is completed, we can start the process of writing a mainnet version of this hard fork. This version will include the logic for transitioning from current protocol parameters to the new ones. This is an intricate process and will have to be heavily tested and involves making some crucial decisions such as when the HF will go into effect and whether it should be done gradually or in one hit. Then they emphasize that the plan outlined is tentative. The purpose of this post is not to present a finalized set in stone roadmap, but to highlight that it is basically coming along and it's their major focus for the next couple of months. So it's actually good that these nodes have migrated over. It makes it a lot easier to implement stuff and test stuff because the nodes are already running the Rust instead of the Go. And clearly it's working out pretty well. We're seeing, the blocks per second are pretty good, as we're seeing in this graph. If we go to Kaspa Home, we can actually click on this visualizer website. So as you can see, compared the two right here, you can see that these obviously aren't moving because I don't think the nodes are connected anymore, but they're mainly on this. But you can see the frequency of blocks is very, very low compared to what we're seeing here. So you have maybe 2, 1, 3, even 4. With this, 4 is basically regular, and then you have 5, 6, 7, and then this massive one that you see here, that's probably 10. So in theory, 10 blocks per second. Overall, it's good to know a time frame for this and to see it come along. Obviously being the main focus for Kaspa Coin is a good thing. I don't know how much adoption this is going to bring from other people in the cryptocurrency community. When it does go over to 10 blocks per second, we are kind of holding out for smart contracts, but it does open it up as a payment system and maybe some adoption from mainstream companies that want to use a quicker and cheaper payment system without having to deal with banks, basically. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Obviously your price predictions for Kaspa Coin, or just let me know if you're mining it right now, because it is actually relatively profitable still. But let me know in the comments, and hopefully you like the video. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.